ComNet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That's correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the Skynet? Take that as a no. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC. Let's say it right. Skynet! Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday, including the subject of astronomy. Our purposes are to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the famous Echolink note 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, live audio, video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is whiskey5friedchicken.org. That's W5FC.org right now for a complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in a number of parts. We have, number 1, general announcements. Number 2, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, where and when you can look through a telescope. The National Space Society is number 3, with events. Number 4 is discussion topic of the evening, selected by your NCS. Number 5 is What's Up? Number 6 is Space Exploration and Space History. Number 7 is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Number 8, Space Launches of the Week. Number 9, Recent Astronomical Discoveries. Number 10, Visible Satellite. If we have time, and number 12 is the 73 round. So all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take low power short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come now with your call sign, your name, your location. Let me know if you're low power short time.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch, both low power and short time.
November 8, Whiskey, Romeo. NAWWR, Romy, Grapevine, short time for the count. Thanks for running that, Tom. NAWR.
Okay, picked up 2 for slow, short time, low power. I've got KT5U Jacob. He's in Farmers Branch, low power and short time. I got NAWWR Romy. He's in Grapevine and short time. Do I have any others? Low power, short time. Please come now. All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and ask my two check-ins, Jacob or Romy, if either of you have anything you would like to bring to the net now, since you're both a short time, please come with your call. Okie, let's go ahead and do general check-ins. That's everybody else pretty much over here. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, New Edward.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Okay, that's pretty good check-ins. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, N5BB, Bill in Irving, W5GUS, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas, N5OF, Clay in Mesquite, KG5VZW, Jay near Weatherford, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, NV5F, Virginia, all the way in Fort Worth. I'll take the check-ins. Please come now.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo Golf 5, Charlie November Alpha, Fort Worth.
This is Kilo 5, Bravo Tango Whiskey. This is Bryn at Lake Levant. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Sierra Ol, Antonio in Dallas.
Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean, Fort Worth. Kilo India 5, Whiskey Victor Alpha, James in North Dallas. So India 5, Sierra Delta Sierra, Jeff Richardson.
Okay, that's a good stopping point. There were a couple of doubles, so I don't think they all resolved. So if you don't hear your name or call, we will get to you on this next round. I've got WB50ZL, Miss Brenda DeSoto. I've got KG5CNA over in Fort Worth. Can I get your name, please?
KG5CNA. Delta Alpha Victor Echo.
Thank you, Dave. KG5CNA over in Fort Worth. Next is, I'll need a fill on this one. I think it's Braden in Lake Levant. I got K5B question mark whiskey, I believe. So if you come back with your full call for me and correct your name if I managed to scrawl it down wrong. It's Lake Levant, though. I do know that.
Yeah, you got pretty close. It's Kilo 5, Bravo Tango Whiskey. My name is Bryn. That's Bravo Romeo Echo November.
Excellent. Okay, I've got you. K5BTW, that's Bren in Lake Lavon. Next up is KF5JHA, Chaz from outer space, or sometimes from Mesquite. KG5UKU, that's David, also in Mesquite. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Next is KI5 Whiskey Victor Alpha, that's James in North Dallas. I've got also KI5 SDS, that's Jeff in Richardson. Now I know I missed some of you, so please come again with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. This is interesting. I think there were two in the same way. Who's trying to transmit in the last round here? Please, maybe increase power, improve position. We'll try again. Please coming out. I will take additional check-ins.
India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Third City.
So Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, there was one call. I think it's down to just the one. You were intermittently into the repeater. The whiskey call. Try one more time. If ears can check for me and let me know on reverse who that might be. He's really weak. I cannot pick him up. But that whiskey call, try one more time, please. All right, well, I could be wrong about that. Well, I've got KI5GRH, that's Melissa over in Surf City, KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas. I'll take additional check-ins. Anybody else would like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Alpha Golf, Liner, Sierra Golf.
Okay, picked up one more. That's Antonio, AG9SG, over in Dallas. Okay, I'll move over to Echolink. Let me see here. I'm going to scan the list. Yeah, there's a few people there who are not checked in yet. If you'd like to join us over and you're on Echolink, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Echolink only, please.
This is Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma, and it was good seeing you, some of y'all last Tuesday at the meeting. K5JW.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Okie dokie, we picked up actually three. I know JJ's out there, but let me start at the top. I got K5JDW, John over in Norman. Feelings mutual, John. It's good seeing you again at the meeting last Tuesday. K5, KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan. I think she's in her new abode. And then finally, JJ, our secret agent, N5IMS, over in Carrollton. I'm sure he's listening. There it is. Open it up to anyone, anywhere who would like to check in. Please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, no problem. I'm sure we'll have additional check-ins as we go, and I will be taking those check-ins later on. So let's get started with our first section. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be of ham, astronomical space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now with your call.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM. Tony, you're the guy. Go ahead.
Good evening, Tom. We have so many fun things going on. I really urge people to check w5sc.org. We've got a Morse code kit, a Morse code practice oscillator kit coming up for our lecture and lab this month. We have a winter diner coming up on December 15th. Save that date. We have a TechNet in the Park coming up on October 22nd, I believe. But before all that stuff, we have a couple of things coming up right away. In reverse order, this Monday is the second Monday of the month. That means it's time for MCOM 101. You don't have to be a RACES or ARES participant. You just have to have an like Bray. Come to our net at 7 p.m. this Monday, and we will help you learn more about public service communications. Again, helping you get ready for Turkey Trot on Thanksgiving Day. We'd really like to have your participation. Before you sign up for Turkey Trot, though, or while you're doing that, there's a couple of nets coming up right now. Skynet, of course, is taking place tonight at this moment. And later tonight at 10:30 p.m., we'll be talking about a strange journey. An elaborate journey. Perhaps even a bogus journey. Yes, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey will be the movie we're talking about on the Afterglow movie discussion tonight. This is a rarity in our Afterglow net. It's in color. It had real famous actors in it. And it was successful. Oh, and even more rare than that, Aaron liked it. So I hope you can join us for tonight's Afterglow movie discussion at 10:30 or so tonight. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey will be our topic. This is NT5TM.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Tony. And I do have a synopsis of that movie coming up here in just a bit. Okay, let's see here. Other things we can discuss. Don't forget, we have... See here, I got to do 10 things at once. So, oopsie, did that wrong. Let me try that again. I'm on my computer trying to do everything. So let's see. Don't forget, we have also the AMSAT Amateur Radio Satellite Group on 2 nets available in Dallas and 1 from Houston on Echolink. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you'll need Echolink installed and registered. You can find the net called AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Dallas, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East is this this repeater is Tuesdays at 8 p.m. On this repeater frequency with a PL tone of 110.9, Tom N5HYP is usually net control, though he's had some guests. He'll discuss anything and everything you would like to know about amateur satellites. Very versed in this, and he can answer any of your technical as well as informational questions. There's the first Tuesday of the month, which is the DARC meeting. There is no AMSAT net east. But if you miss that, there's always Dallas AMSAT West. That's Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater at 147.140 megahertz, scale 110.9. It has a positive offset. This net, let's see here. So that's that. Oh, I almost fell into my own trap, which are notes. Now, of course, this repeater has a bunch of nets. Let me go through them really quick. The next one is, of course, MCOM 101. That'll be this Monday. That's always the second week. We also have on Mondays, first week at 7 p.m., Ham Fixin's Net. On the third week, we also have a second helmet of Ham Fixin's Net where we talk about recipes and food, because we all know that not only do hams like to cook or like to eat, they also like to cook. Get some really good recipes there, by the way. Also, on the fourth Monday of the month is GeekNet. We expand beyond just amateur radio and talk about all things geeky, as well as share some news stuff. Then on the fifth week, when I told you what it is, the prize net was Jeopardy. And I think we had a winner. I don't remember who it was now, but whoever you were very smart. We also have on Fridays, CERT City at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5JRH, is usually the net control, but she too has some guest operators that come in and discuss, or our NCS. Visit the most disaster-prone city of the universe every Saturday, CERT City, and all are welcome. On Saturdays, of course, is the night of nets. We have at 7 to 8, that's TechNet. From 9 until 10:30 is Skynet, and from 10:30 until midnight is the Afterglow Movie Net. Don't forget, first and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, or MODA. We also have at 6:30 p.m., 7 days a week, the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. This is an opportunity if you've never participated in a formalized net. This is a good place to get your feet wet, find out about that, because this also works on HF as well. And because it's a training net, you can do no wrong. Now, we also have, let's see, is that everything? That's everything. So now I'm going to tell you about tonight's Afterglow Movie Net information. Tony gave you the movie. I'm going to give you the particulars. Here we go. Bergman's eyes widened like saucers. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His film, a masterpiece called The Seventh Seal, had been transformed into a slapstick sci-fi comedy. He made the call. An operator responded. 911, what is your emergency? Bergman attempted his best English. Some American producer has taken my film and murdered it. The character called Death. I created now tap dances and tells jokes. This isn't funny. Death is final and awful and inconvenient. It's not funny. The operator responded. Please calm down, sir. You seem to be hyperventilating. Can you tell me what films you have made? Bergman responded. Wild Strawberries, Persona, Cries and Whispers, and Fanny and Alexander. I've directed over 170 plays. Martin Scorsese keeps my number on speed dial when he needs advice. The operator interrupted. Sir, I've never seen any of these films. Bergman continued. They created a sequel called Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, stealing my story. Sir, I saw that movie. Was that one of yours? I loved it. Bergman hung up and redialed, hoping he'd find another, more educated responder. Join us for the sequel sci-fi film, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, tonight at 10:30 p.m. And this is KE5ICX. Let's go ahead and go down to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'll go ahead and ask who would like to do the honors on this for the Texas Astronomical Society. Please come with your call.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
HA.
You know it's dangerous when I've keyed up the mic. Yes. Oh, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, September the 23rd, 2022, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Dr. Borat Petra from Kansas State, and his topic will be the accelerating, expanding universe, dark matter, dark energy, and Einstein's cosmological constant. Saturday night public observing sessions have begun once again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Is there anyone at the public observing session tonight? I'm not sure if it's begun on the second Saturday, but if there is, please come now with your call sign. I guess I don't hear anything. So, if you'd like more information about the Texas Astronomical Society, its meetings and observing sessions, go to texasastro.org, and that way you can get that information and details. All right, back to you, Net Control, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Chaz. Next up is National Space Society events and activities. This one I know who's going to do this one. That would be Bill N5BB. Bill, that net is yours.
Yes, I do, Tom. This is N5BB. I'm the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our meetings are on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So our next meeting is tomorrow, September the 11th at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, which is on the southwest corner of Beltline and Highway 183, right next to Outback Steakhouse. There will be a cake there, because it is the, the 35th anniversary of the founding of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. That's right, 35 years. We'll have a birthday cake there, so come on by and have some cake and meet our group. We're going to start meeting up around 3:30 for the cake, etc. And then at 4 o'clock, we'll have the presentation. Our presenter will be MJ, I'm sorry, how do I pronounce her last name? MJ Tykowski. She is a science teacher at Wiley High School. Through her involvement with the Texas X's Teacher Associate Program for UT Austin, she flew on Sophia, the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Observatory. So she has some experiences about what goes on in that observatory, what it feels like to be up there flying around in it, and etc. So that should be interesting. Sophia was actually outfitted in Waco, Texas at the L3 Integrated Services plant. The telescope itself was built in Germany, and NASA had the thing all integrated. I think it was NASA. Had the thing all integrated there with a used 747. They cut a big hole in it and put the telescope in there and sealed it all up and did a lot of special stuff to pressurize it with dry nitrogen. And put a special control system in to fly it nice and straight and level. That all occurred down there in Waco. The initial test flights were over Waco. Excuse me while I cough. Anyway, so that will be tomorrow. You can hear about Sophia at the National Space Society meeting. Again, we get together at 3:30, have some cake. At 4 o'clock, we start our meeting, presentation. You can also listen to it on WebEx, which is inferior since we have cake, and we can't send you cake via WebEx. If you'd like to if you have any questions about, or you want to look at the presentation on WebEx, you can send me an email, n5bb@arrl.net, or space@byrom.net. That's space@byrom.net. But you're going to have to get it to me by about noon tomorrow, or I'm not going to be looking at my email. So, I want to be there. If you have any questions about it, get your questions to me by noon tomorrow, or it'll be too late. It's the only short-term thing happening here with the National Space Society. Break. There is another event going on here in Irving, which some of us are going to participate in. I probably won't. It's going to be the FinCon, 18th edition of FinCon, which is a local kind of fantasy conference involving science fiction stuff. And that's going to be on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of September. That's this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That event will be at the Sheraton DFW Airport Hotel. This is over at Esther's Road and Highway 114. And so that's going to be going on there. Next weekend's very busy. The big event, of course, is going to be the International Space Development Conference 2023. It's going to be held in Frisco, Texas, suburb of Dallas, in late May next year of 2023, where you can see all kinds of neat people talking about, Artemis going to the moon, talking about SpaceX things, talking about other companies doing things in space, including hotels and all kinds of things. Discussion about going to Mars, discussion about moon events, all kinds of things. Be there, be square. You can get a discount. Usually from the National Space, join the National Space Society in our local chapter. If you join the National Space Society, you get 1 year free membership in our local chapter. Again, you can reach me at space@byrom.net or n5bb@brl.net or .com, n5bb.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Does anyone need any fills? Please come with your call sign. All right, hearing none. Just a couple of comments. I'm going to interject my own little personal thing here. Today was very busy around the Metroplex when it came to aircraft. I'm a huge fan of that. I know Tony likes birds. I like birds too, but mine have wheels for landing gears. Just a couple of things that flew in. I did see the Iberia A350 coming in from Madrid. I believe Iberia is back with maybe regular flights. It's been a very, very long time since they've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We also had an extremely rare event, a Delta 767-400. Now, Delta's, virtually the 767s have been replaced by 787s, except for the 400, which is a super stretch. Delta flew in one of those today. I missed that. And then flying overhead from east to west over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, was a little plane called a VC-25. You may recognize it when the President is on board as Air Force One. I missed that one too, although I have seen it in the air flying over Dallas 3 times through the years. To landing at Love Field another time. Well, actually twice at Love Field. I've seen them all. So each with a different president on board, I have to say. So that's over a very long period of time. I just thought I'd mention that. There's always something interesting going on. And where my house is located is under 18 left, and that was by design. I'm one of the few people in the world that actually likes living under a runway. Okay, that's it from me. Well, let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carrollton.
This is Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip, White Rock Creek.
Okay, we picked up 2 more. I got KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James over in Carrollton, and KI5 KTZ, that's Philip over in White Rock Creek. Thank you both for checking in, and of course everybody else. Okay, as net control, I get the opportunity to select a topic this evening, so I do have something. This one is an article, I'm not sure exactly when it was published, but it was on futurism a while back. And it's written by a guy named Joshua Filmer, and it has to do, how do astronauts determine where they are in space? Now, I will tell you that there's plenty of really super technical stuff that's out there that we don't have time to do, and I'm not sure I'd understand it. So I found this article for this, and I'm a novice, so I'll take that as this is a good article for me. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. And there's pictures if you want to go along on the video thing. It doesn't, you don't have to actually watch it to see it, to get an idea of what's going on. But it is somewhat descriptive here what is happening. So this is what Joshua says. North, south, east, and west are Earth-related directions that are determined by the planet's magnetic field. But with no planet in space to guide them, how can scientists figure out directions beyond Earth's atmosphere? To answer this question, it's important to realize that directions are completely arbitrary human inventions that hold no real scientific significance. In short, directions exist solely to make our lives easier when navigating through space in which we all live. You could reverse the definition of all our directional terms tomorrow, so that north means south and vice versa. And with the exception of a few very confused people who will have no adverse effects, there would be no changes to how science operates. However, to answer the real question, the method we use for finding directions in space, yes, we do have northern and southern hemispheres for the universe, galaxy, and solar system, is related to the directions that we have on Earth. So how did these directions come about? For the purposes of this section, he says, I'm not going to concern myself with where the name north, south, east, and west came from, and its different translations in various languages around the world. Instead, I'm going to talk directly about the concept of direction relative to the way we think about it today. Throughout history, humanity has known a countless number of map orientations. Most of them were ergocentrically centered or ethnocentric. This essentially means that in each culture, the most important feature was placed in the most important part of the map. As an example, and I have this map up, is an Edo map from Japan that placed the imperial palace at both the top and center of the map. On the map itself, the imperial palace was the center, but you had to lift the map over your head, making it the top to read it correctly. The medieval European maps placed the east, particularly Jerusalem, at the top of the map due to its religious significance. In addition, some cultures placed east on top because that's the direction the sun rose from. Maps created on the cities on the sea often have the sea placed at the top of the map for reasons I haven't been able to uncover, probably because of some link to trade and sustainability. The prevalence of north-based tops seems to have its roots in two aspects of European life. Widespread use of the compass between the 11th and 14th centuries is, in my opinion, the greatest contributor to the European northern directional bias. Magnetic north pointed travelers northwardly, so maps adjusted accordingly by placing north at the top. In addition, in the northern hemisphere, the sky seems to rotate around Polaris, the North Star, so this aided in the change. Finally, cartographers were placing the British Empire, or Europe, on top of the map to help demonstrate Britain's power over the world. And that is, of course, an egocentric, ethnocentric idea. The spread of the British Empire ultimately forced the world oriented itself. Here's a random fun fact. The map turned to the Orient is a throwback to the east on top bias of medieval Europe, where the Orient was on top. This north on top bias was ultimately chosen by humanity as the way our maps were to be drawn, and this method hasn't really been seriously challenged since it's been established. When we began modeling our solar system, we divided the system along the sun's equatorial axis and called everything that Earth's northern hemisphere pointed to the northern hemisphere for the solar system. This is also defined as the northern hemispheres for most of the planets, sun, major moons, dwarf planets, etc. in the solar system. We did the same thing for the southern hemisphere. In the same way, this reasoning was used to further define the hemispheres of the galaxy, the universe, and pretty much anything else we want to assign hemispheres to. It all related to what European cartographers decided to do in the late medieval era. Now that we've defined the directions in space, how do we use them? When an spacecraft is far away and Earth is nothing more than a dot in the distance, the probe can't look back at us to orient itself. There must be another way. Probes use a few different tools to find their way in the vast vacuum of space. All unmanned interplanetary vehicles are controlled from Earth, so all the below functions take place and the terrestrial ground stations in charge of the DSN, or Deep Space Network. First, scientists need to know where the craft is and how fast it's going. This is where the DSN comes in. This is a network of 3 radio antennae positioned around the world coverage of the sky. Signals received and sent by the probe are measured for very slight shifts in frequency. By analyzing these shifts and the length of time between transmission and reception, scientists are able to calculate the probe's position and velocity with stunning accuracy. In fact, we could measure the probe's line-of-sight velocity to within 0.05 millimeters per second and its location to within 3 meters. That's way more accurate than the speedometer on your car and your GPS, of course, depending on which GPS you're using. And keep in mind, we are talking about probes that are often thousands, millions, or billions of kilometers away. Second, we need an accurate model of the solar system to work with. One of the biggest assets to our probes are the planets. We use gravity-assisted maneuvers all the time. A gravity-assisted maneuver is when we use the gravity well generated by a body, usually planets or large moons, to alter the spacecraft's trajectory and speed. Plus, all of our current deep space missions are interplanetary, meaning they are going to some destination inside the solar system, usually a planet or another object. We don't know where our targets are, and if we don't know where our targets are, we can't send a probe to it to study. Third, we need an accurate understanding of orbital dynamics. This allows us to plan missions, and since it can take probes many years to reach their destinations, these missions are often planned far in advance to take advantage of planetary alignment. This allows us to make alterations to the probe's trajectory as it journeys to its destination. In general, all of our probes orient themselves in relation to the solar system, but what happens when the time comes that our solar system becomes a mere dot in the blackness of space? We still need to know the location and velocity of our spacecraft. In such instances, we're likely to use something similar to the DNS. In this case, the Voyager 2, humanity's only interstellar spacecraft to date, uses the DNS so that scientists know where it is and how fast it's going. We'll also need an accurate model of the solar system to assist in the spacecraft's departure. But we'll also need an accurate model of the motions of the stars that we're going to use, as well as an accurate model, or the ability to make one very quickly, of the target solar system. Both of these, both of these are possible and are done, and with today's technologies. So we wouldn't really need any new developments in these technologies. After this, our model for orbital dynamics carries over to whatever solar system we might find ourselves in. So as far as we can tell, the laws of physics are universal. They certainly hold true on these small scales. Finally, we'll need to create accurate star maps. We have a very accurate model for the sky as it appears from Earth and our solar system. We can estimate how the sky looks from different angles and perspectives, but this also requires a very precise map of where the stars actually are. And we have a good idea of the locations of the stars in the Milky Way, especially the ones close to us, but often they have uncertainties that are unacceptable for navigation. Our first interstellar missions will likely be tasked with analyzing the sky and building these star charts. All of our directions are currently Earth-based, having their roots in cartography of Imperial Britain. The south, east, and west directions will likely not change, but they will be enhanced and made more accurate by our use of degrees. We'll continue to use the DNS-type systems to function as a GPS system for the solar system and stars, and once again will serve as our navigation markers when we start going beyond the reach of our solar system. In the end, the accuracy of our maps and models are what allow our spacecraft, past, present, and future, to find their target destinations across the vastness of emptiness of space. And that's it. You can find this article. Just Google, let me go back here, Futurism, and Joshua Fillmore, F-I-L-M-E-R, and you can look at the pictures and read the article. There are some other links that talk about navigation as well. I thought I'd start with something and just scratch the surface. It just seemed the right thing to do. So that's it for me on that and that topic. Does anyone have any comments or have any questions that I can answer?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
And T5TM, Tony, go ahead.
I wanted to add that there are amusing anecdotes on Jim Lovell during Apollo 8, working harder and harder to refine the precise state vector, the position and direction of the Apollo 8 capsule as the mission went on. And by the end of the mission, they had to joke that, well, we're plus or minus 2 meters per second, you're plus or minus 2 meters per second. I guess you finally got it. It's fun to read about that. I'm not sure what the best reference to recommend is, but there is some neat stuff you can find online. Worked hard to make sure that both mission control and the Apollo craft could back each other up very well. NT5PM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. And there is something to be said about that mission as well. The Apollo spacecraft that had to go to the moon and return our astronauts successfully, and they're going to be doing this on the SLS program, Artemis, when it begins its manned missions here in the next couple of years. But one of the things is they used what they called a scanning telescope and a sextant on board. And then they used what was called the D-ski system, which is a computer interface that when it used the guidance computer and would orient the spacecraft in the right direction so that they could fire their engines appropriately. The D-ski sat next to the telescopes, and it allowed your navigator or command module pilot actually to go in and do those sightings of the stars. And I think they had like 32 different ones that they used regularly. I could be wrong. But when it was done, the astronauts would say, well, we got balls to the walls. And what that meant was not what you think, but it had to do with the D-ski collaborating to a point where there was a zero error, a bunch of zeros on the computer readout. So obviously NASA didn't like that term, but we can use today. It's okay. So very nerdy stuff. If you want to see it, I'll show you some Sunday. Come to the Frontiers of Flight Museum in downtown Dallas, and I'll show you how that works. Kind of cool. Okay, this is, what is this? We're on Skynet. This is Skynet. I'm KE5ICX. Next up is Chaz. He has What's Up. So we're going to ask Chaz, KF5JHA, what's up? The net is yours.
Thank you, Tom. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at the Astrophysics Labs and Geology Labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet, What's Up? Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. Today, actually about 5 o'clock this morning, Central Daylight Time, September the 10th, the moon was full. Now, 1 week from now, September the 17th, the third quarter moon will occur. On September 19th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,556 kilometers. New moon will be on September 25th. First quarter moon is on October the 2nd, and on October the 4th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,325 kilometers. Master, slide number 3, please. Sun is active again. Over the past couple of weeks, the sun has released some strong solar flares, strong enough for aurora to be visible in the high northern latitudes. The sun is ramping up faster on its upward swing in the solar cycle than predicted. What does this mean? Well, time will tell. Master, slide number 4. On Sunday, September the 11th, look toward the eastern evening sky to see the conjunction of the moon and Jupiter. Jupiter has been so bright because it's nearly at opposition. Slide number 5. On September 17th, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction in the eastern sky. They can be seen just after midnight. And on September the 26th, the two inner planets in our solar system, Mercury and Venus, will be in conjunction in the early morning eastern sky. Slide number 7. You may have heard this, you may not have. Blue Walker 3, designed to supply 4G cell phone signals from space, unfurled a large antenna spanning 64 square meters, the size of a squash court, after its launch, which did happen just minutes before the start of Skynet this evening. I don't know if it's unfolded its large antenna yet, but it has already been launched. This flat surface orbiting 500 kilometers above the Earth will reflect a lot of sunlight, which could make the satellite extremely visible to observers on the ground. It could become brighter than the planet Venus and outshining everything in the night sky except the moon. While this is only a single satellite for now, Blue Walker's maker, AST Space Mobile, plans to launch more than 100 larger satellites called Bluebirds. These satellites, which could be more than twice the size of Blue Walker 3, would appear even brighter in the sky. For astronomers, the satellites could create bright streaks across the images from ground-based telescopes and cameras, potentially making those images or data unusable for more distant objects. Stay tuned for more details. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 8. Dallas Club meeting will be on Friday, September the 23rd, 7:30 p.m. the University of Texas, Dallas, and also held on Zoom. And Bharat Ratra from Kansas State will be the speaker, and his topic is the accelerating, expanding universe, dark matter, dark energy, and Einstein's cosmological constant. Say that 3 times in a row in one breath. I'll bet you can't do it. And Saturday night public observing sessions has started once again. Now, details about all of this can be found at the Texas Astronomical website, texasastro.org. Now, Slide Master, slide number 9. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.
All I hear is quiet. So, just a warning. On November the 8th, early in the morning, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse. That's November the 8th, early morning. After midnight on the 7th, early morning on the 8th. So, as the moon wanes at the end of August, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JHA Backdoor Net Control. Tom, it's all yours.
Jazz, thank you so much, as always, and of course we'll be leaning on you again here after the next segment. So we do have a next segment, and this one is space exploration and space history. Tonight, Kelly, K5KTX, will be giving our walk through history and space exploration. Kelly, what's been happening out there? K5KTX from KD5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is K5KTX. Good evening, everyone. Well, this past weekend, I had the opportunity to visit my niece in Orlando. And, of course, we drove over to Titusville to try to see the Artemis 1 launch. We found a great spot on the banks of the Indian River directly across from the launch pad. If you're watching the Skynet video feed, you're probably looking at the poor picture that I took through binoculars with my cell phone in order to see the rocket. But unfortunately, the launch was scrubbed not long after we got there, actually. After standing down on the Artemis 1 launch attempt due to a hydrogen leak, teams decided to replace the seal on an interface called the quick disconnect between the liquid hydrogen fuel feed line on the mobile launcher and the Space Launch System, or SLS, rocket while at the launch pad. After disconnecting the ground and rocket side plates on the quick disconnect for the liquid hydrogen fuel feed line, teams have replaced the seals on the Space Launch System's rocket's core stage. Both the 8-inch line used to fill and drain liquid hydrogen from the core stage and the 4-inch bleed line used to redirect some of the propellant during tanking operations were removed and replaced this week. So coming up, technicians will reconnect the umbilical plates and perform inspections over the weekend before preparing for a tanking demonstration as soon as Saturday, September the 17th. This demonstration will allow engineers to check the new seals under cryogenic or super cold conditions as expected on launch day and before proceeding to the next launch attempt. During the operation, teams will practice loading liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen in the rocket's core stage, an interim cryogenic propulsion stage, and getting to a stable replenish state for both propellants. Teams will confirm the leak has been repaired and also perform the kickstart bleed test and a pre-pressurization test, which will validate the ground and flight hardware and software systems can perform the necessary functions required to thermally condition the engines for flight. Following the test, teams will evaluate the data along with plans for the next launch opportunity. NASA has submitted a request to the Eastern Range for an extension of the current testing requirement for the Flight Termination System. NASA is respecting the range's processes for review of the request, and the agency continues to provide detailed information to support a range decision. NASA is preserving options for the next launch opportunity as early as Friday, September the 23rd. NASA's teams internally are preparing to support additional dates in the event flexibility is required. The agency will evaluate and adjust launch opportunities and alternate dates based on progress at the pad and to align with other planned activities, including DART's planned impact with an asteroid, the West Coast launch of a government payload, and the launch of Crew 5. Now in space history for this past week, beginning on September the 5th, back in 1977, very important date, at 8:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Voyager 1 lifted off from Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Voyager 1 would fly by Jupiter in March 1979 and Saturn in November 1980. Voyager 1 is now in interstellar space, so far away that radio signals take over 20 hours to reach Earth. It is currently approximately 14.6 billion miles from Earth. Engineers expect the spacecraft to continue operating at least one science instrument until around 2025. After 2036, it will be out of range of the Deep Space Network. On September the 6th, back in 1996, NASA's Galileo spacecraft conducted its second flyby of Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. The Galileo spacecraft's mission, which first launched in 1989, was to study the moons of Jupiter and derived its name from Galileo Galilei. Ganymede is one of the 4 Galilean moons because it was one of the 4 moons first observed by Galileo in 1609 to 1610. Through Galileo's telescopes, Ganymede appeared as a small, moving point which could easily be mistaken as a star. But the Galileo spacecraft, with its many scientific instruments and cameras, revealed Ganymede to be an entire world, complete with its own magnetosphere and even a subsurface ocean. Also on September the 6th, back in 20, Fear and Dust in Berladi probe was launched from Pad 0B of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility, Wallops Island, Virginia. It was the first payload to launch on a U.S. Air Force Minotaur 5 rocket integrated by Orbital Sciences Corp. And the first deep space mission to launch from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Virginia. LADEE was a robotic mission that orbited the moon to gather detailed information about the structure and composition of the thin lunar atmosphere and determine whether dust is lofted into the lunar sky. The probe orbited the moon for 7 months, and at the end of the mission was intentionally crashed into the far side of the moon on April 18, 2014. On September the 7th, back in 1914, American astrophysicist James Van Allen was born. Van Allen was a pioneer in early space exploration. For the International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 1958, he proposed several ideas for experiments conducted by satellites. The International Geophysical Year was an international collaborative project designed to promote progress in the geophysical sciences, during which both American and Soviet scientists developed proposals for satellites. Unfortunately, Van Allen's proposals were initially ignored by the U.S. After the launch of Sputnik, however, Van Allen's proposals to launch an American satellite were quickly approved, and Explorer 1, the first U.S. satellite, was launched in January 1958, just 4 months after the launch of Sputnik. Thanks to data collected by Explorer 1 and later Explorer 3, scientists were able to confirm the existence of a zone of radiation held by the Earth's magnetic field, which were then named the Van Allen belts. On September the 8th, 1966, I'm sure one of Tom's favorite dates, Star Trek aired its first episode. Although Star Trek depicted a fantasy future Earth in which humans and other intelligent species freely explored the universe on Galaxy-class starships, in the real world, humanity was similarly taking its first steps to boldly go where no one had gone before. Star Trek's influence on NASA was far-reaching. In 1976, thanks to a letter-writing campaign by Star Trek fans, NASA named the first space shuttle Enterprise after the Star Trek starship led by Captain James T. Kirk. If you're watching the slideshow, the photo of the Enterprise is a scratch-built model built by a longtime Texas Astronomical Society member, Jason Ware. On today, September the 10th, back in 2011, at Cape Canaveral, the Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory spacecraft, or GRAIL, was sent on its journey to the moon. The twin spacecraft studied the gravitational field of the moon for clues about its history of collisions with other space objects and for desirable landing sites for future missions. The two spacecraft impacted the lunar surface on December the 17th, 2012. And finally tonight, all of our astronaut birthdays from this past week, beginning with November the 6th, Space Shuttle missions STS-61B and STS-40. Also on September the 6th, 1955, Carl Waltz, Space Shuttle missions STS-51, 65, 79, 108. Then he was on Expedition 4 to the International Space Station, and then Space Shuttle mission STS-111. September the 7th, 1939, David Griggs, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-51D. September the 9th, 1952, Lee Morin, who I got to meet down at Johnson Space Center a few years ago. He was on Space Shuttle mission STS-110. And finally, on today, back in 1945, is Mike Mullane's birthday. He was on Space Shuttle missions STS-41D, STS-27, and STS-36. And by the way, he was born in Wichita Falls, Texas. And if you are part of the very fantastic Space Hipsters group on Facebook, he is a regular participant there, along with his son, Patrick Mullane, and his wife, Donna Mullane. So you need to go out there and check that out and have a chance to talk to a former astronaut. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Miss Kelly. I appreciate that. And yes, I was there the night, September 8, 1966, watched the first episode of Star Trek, just a kid, live on NBC. Well, it wasn't live, but it was, I saw it while I was alive in 1966. It was pretty cool. It changed my life, changed a lot of other people's lives, too. Became super geeky. Amateur radio to prove it. Okay, let's see here. Next up we have Chaz again. He's got more stuff for us. This time it's Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So, Chaz, KF5JHA, are you ready?
I am. We're having an interesting discussion over on Echolink about aurora. And yes, in the summertime, the northern hemisphere is pointed more toward the sun and might get more of the sun's energy for aurora. And in our wintertime, which is the summertime for the southern hemisphere, they would get more of the sun's energy and have better chances for aurora during the winter, our winter time. Okay, anyway, Slide Master, slide number 11. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look of one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the entire year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Aquila the Eagle. About a Apollo mission we talked about earlier. Something named the Eagle. I don't know. Constellation's name, Aquila, means the eagle in Latin. The constellation represents the eagle of the Roman god Jupiter in mythology. The constellation was first cataloged by Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, Aquila is identified as the eagle that carried Zeus's thunderbolts and was once dispatched by the god to carry Ganymede, the young Trojan boy Zeus, blah, blah, blah. To be the cupbearer of Aquarius. Slide Master, slide number 12. What everyone's been waiting for is the jokes of the week. We've skipped over them the last 2 weeks. What bird doesn't need a comb? Of course, the bald eagle. What does the eagle say to his friends before they go out hunting for food? Let us pray, P-R-E-Y. How does an eagle greet its prey? Pleased to eat you. What is an eagle's favorite game? Peek-a-boo. Okay. What do you call a sick eagle? An ill eagle. And the last one for this part. Why is the eagle considered the most skillful bird? I'm having a hard time talking tonight. Why is the eagle considered the most skillful bird? Because it is the most talented. I hear you laughing and groaning at the same time. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Altair is the brightest star in Aquila, and it's the 12th brightest star in the sky. Altair is one of the 3 stars that make up the summer triangle. The second brightest of the 3. The name Altair is derived from the Arabic words flying eagle, light years from the Earth. So it's one of those close-by neighbors. Altair is one of the few stars that has been directly imaged. A copy of the image can be found on page 7 of Volume 2 of the Annals of Deep Sky by Jeff Knipe and Dennis Webb. It can be also found in Wikipedia under the entry for Altair. Altair is noted for its extremely fast rotation period, about 6.5 hours, which translates to a rotational speed of about 160 miles per second at the equator. The rapid rotation rate makes the star oblate spheroid. Sounds like the Earth. Its equatorial diameter, I can't talk tonight, which is 4.04 solar radii, is 22% greater than its polar diameter, which is 3.32 solar radii. Ceres is the second brightest star in Aquila. Its name is derived from the Persian, which means the beam of the scale. It is spectral class K32, bright giant with an apparent magnitude of 2.72 and is approximately 461 light years in distance. Ceres is 2,960 times more luminous than the Sun and has a radius of 110 solar radii, taking up about half an astronomical unit. Wow. It is also a known source of X-rays. It's about 100 million years old and yet is already burning helium in the carbon at its core. That's the second stage of stars. That's usually getting toward the end of their lifetime. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 14. NGC 6760 is a globular cluster. Dave Hutchinson writes in his globular that this globular cluster is pretty easy to locate and observe. And he found numerous reports of people locating this cluster using binoculars. Using a 13-inch Newtonian, he describes NGC 6760 as a very nice cluster that is very symmetrical with a pretty dense core. He adds that he didn't think he resolved it completely. Master slide number 15. NGC 6781 is a planetary nebula, is known as the Snow Globe Nebula. Dave Hutchinson writes, NGC 6781 is sort of a cross between M57, the Ring Nebula, and M97, the Owl Nebula. Like the Ring Nebula, this object is a well-defined ring, but unlike the Ring Nebula, and more like the Owl Nebula, this object's interior is well illuminated. He mentions that it is a nice object for an 8-inch scope or above, and challenges those with larger telescopes to observe the nebula's central star, which is at magnitude 16. Masters, slide number 16. NGC 6751 is a planetary nebula as well, known as the Dandelion Puffball or the Glowing Eye Nebula. Dave Hutchinson notes that NGC 6751 was difficult to see in his 13-inch telescope because it is very faint and small. It's almost lost in the crowded Milky Way background star field. And slide master, slide number 17. C6778 is a planetary nebula, sometimes known as the son of M76. Dave Hutchinson writes that NGC 6778 was even more difficult to find than NGC 6751 in his 13-inch telescope. He suggests using medium power to find it, and you will notice it is an easy irregular, and notice it's easily as an irregular object when you find it. It's sort of like a fuzzy star. This is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 18. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Aquila the Eagle. I've just covered a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, I guess, at this point, 75 different observing programs. Two new ones just were added. Most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 19. And that is Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aquila the Eagle. And I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time, we'll take a look at two constellations, Lopecula, the Little Fox, and Sagitta or Sagitta, the Arrow. And this is KF5JJ, sending it back to our net control. 23, everyone. Have a great night. It's all yours, Tom.
Thank you, Chaz. And this is KE5. by control this evening. Next segment's mine. I'll go through this quickly. I think, we can do 2 more segments. This is one of them. Space launches for the week. This information comes from spacecoastlaunches.com and from spaceflightnow.com. I prefer spaceflightnow.com and /launch schedule. This gives all of the international flights. So we have Falcon 9 launch, Starlink 4-2, and Blue Walker 3, which we were talking about earlier, will launch another batch of 34 Starlink Internet satellites. Blue Walker 3 is a test satellite for AST Space Mobile's planned space-based cellular broadband network and is a rideshare payload for this mission. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land in the Atlantic Ocean. September 11th, 12th, we have a launch from SLC-2W at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Firefly Alpha rocket will launch the second test flight of a rideshare payload consisting of multiple unspecified small satellites. Secret stuff. We also have on 11th and 12th as well, Starlink at 9, 4-34 mission, Falcon 9 with a Starlink 4-34. This will be another launch of 54 Starlink Internet satellites. First stage will land in the Atlantic Ocean. We have 4-35 on September 19th. This will be from SLC-40, again Starlink. This is from Cape Canaveral Space Force Bases. The Falcon 9 first stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. September 21st, oh boy, something different. We have the ISS-68S launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch a crewed Soyuz MS-22 spacecraft to the International Space Station with the next team of 3 cosmonauts to live and work in the complex. The crew is led by Commander Sergei Prokofiev, who will be joined by Russian flight engineer Dmitry Petilin and NASA astronaut Frank Rubino. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 21A configuration. Next, on the rescheduled launch of the Artemis 1 from Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center, the SLS heavy lift rocket will launch its first test payload of an uncrewed Orion spacecraft. The mission, known as Artemis 1, will place the Orion spacecraft into orbit around the moon before the capsule returns to Earth for splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. 2 small CubeSat rideshare payloads will also launch on the Artemis 1 mission. September 24th, we have a Delta IV Heavy and Roll 91 will fly from SLC-6 at Vandenberg Air Space Force Base in California. The United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy will launch a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, U.S. Government Spy Satellite Agency. Then finally, I'll give you this one. This will be in September. Falcon 9 Starlink 4-36 from SLC-40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. It'll be another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. All together, everyone, Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Now we'll move on to recent astronomical discoveries. That would be Miss Brenda, WV50ZL. What do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Tom. This is WV50ZL. I have an article entitled MAVEN and EMM Make First Observations of Patchy Proton Aurora at Mars. NASA's MAVEN, that's Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution Mission, and the United Arab Emirates Mars Mission, that's EMM, have released joint observations of dynamic proton aurora events at Mars. Remote auroral observations by EMM paired with in situ plasma observations made by MAVEN open new avenues for understanding the Martian atmosphere. Collaboration was made possible by recent data sharing between the 2 missions and highlights the value of multi-port observations in space. A study of these findings appears in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. In the new study, EMM discovered fine-scale structures in proton aurora that span the full day side of Mars. Proton aurora, discovered by MAVEN in 2018, are a type of Martian aurora that form as the solar wind, made up of charged particles from the sun, interacts with the upper atmosphere. Typical proton aurora observations made by MAVEN and ESA's, that's the European Space Agency, Mars Express mission showed these aurora appearing smooth and evenly distributed across the atmosphere. By contrast, EMM observed proton aurora that appeared highly dynamic and variable. These patchy proton aurora form when turbulent conditions around Mars allow the charged particles to flood directly into the atmosphere and glow as they slow down. EMM's observations suggested that the aurora was so widespread and disorganized that the plasma environment around Mars must have been truly disturbed to the point that the solar wind was directly impacting the upper atmosphere whenever we observed auroral emission, said Mike Chafin, a MAVEN and EMM scientist based at the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Science Physics at the University of Colorado Boulder and lead author of the study. By combining EMM auroral observations with MAVEN measurements of the auroral plasma environment, we can confirm this hypothesis and determine that what we were seeing was essentially a map of where the solar wind was raining down onto the planet. Normally, it is difficult for the solar wind to reach Mars's upper atmosphere because it is redirected by the bow shock and magnetic fields surrounding the planet. The patchy proton aurora observations are therefore a window into rare circumstances, ones during which the Mars-solar wind interaction is chaotic. The full impact of these conditions on the Martian atmosphere is unknown, but EMM and MAVEN observations will play a key role in understanding these enigmatic events, said Chafin. The data sharing between MAVEN and EMM has enabled scientists to determine the drivers behind the patchy proton aurora. EMM carries the Emirates Mars Violet Spectrograph, EMUS, instrument, which observes the red planet's upper atmosphere and exosphere, scanning for variability in atmospheric composition and atmospheric escape to space. MAVEN carries a full suite of plasma instruments, including the magnetometer, MAG, the Solar Wind Ion Analyzer, SWIA, and the Suprathermal and Thermal Ion Composition, STATIC, instrument used in this study. EMM's global observations of the upper atmosphere provide a unique perspective on a region critical to MAVEN science, said MAVEN principal investigator at UC Berkeley Space Sciences Laboratory. These types of simultaneous observations probe the fundamental physics of atmospheric dynamics and evolution and highlight the benefits of international scientific collaboration. EMM science lead Hessa Al-Matrusi agreed. Access to MAVEN data has been essential for placing these new EMM observations into wider context, she said. Together, we're pushing the boundaries of our existing knowledge not only of Mars, but of planetary interactions with the solar wind. Multi-vantage point measurements have already proven to be an asset in Earth and heliophysics research. At Mars, over half a dozen orbiters are now taking science observations, and with Mars's southern hemisphere currently experiencing summer, when proton aurora is known to be most active, multi-vantage point observations will be critical to understanding how these events form. The collaboration between EMM and MAVEN demonstrates the value of discovery-level science about the Martian atmosphere with two spacecraft simultaneously observing the same region. MAVEN's principal investigator is based at the University of California, while NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland manages the MAVEN mission. Lockheed Martin Space built the spacecraft and is responsible for mission operations. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California provides navigation and deep space network support. The Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, LASP, at the University of Colorado Boulder is responsible for managing science operations and public outreach and communication. All right, this is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB50Z.
All right, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for bringing that presentation this evening. This is KE5ICX. We're run out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and take a final round of check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, Thomas in Euless, no traffic.
Kilo India 5, Uniform, Juliet, Dustin, and Dallas.
Is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Ted, Dallas, low power, no traffic.
Okay, we picked up 3 additional. We've got KI5JCM, that's Thomas in Euless. KI5UUJ, that's Dustin in Dallas. And WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, low power. Any other final check-ins? Please come down with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Philadelphia 5, Alpha Oscar Kilo, KI5 AOK, Robert, Keith, Texas.
Oh, okay. You went so fast on your call. I've got too many letters and not enough call signs. So, Robert, could you give me your full call again?
Kilo India 5, Alpha Oscar Kilo, KI5 AOK.
Thank you. I got you now. KI5AOK. We've got you checked in. Your final, but certainly not least on all this. Tonight, we had 30 check-ins, or hams, participating on the air, including myself. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration, because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, it's really actually fun. Contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, and I'll be closing the net at 22:31 local time, 7-3, returning the repeater to normal amateur use at least for another 5 minutes. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And we will be back in about 5 minutes to pick up where we left off. Brief respite, where we will continue with the Afterglow Movie Net. We'll be talking about Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey from 1991. So come on back and join us there. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear till then.
What you're saying is in about 5 minutes we'll start abnormal ham use. Good to know. KI5JCM.
That's still fast. KI5 AOK.
This is WB50ZL, ready to start tonight's Afterglow movie discussion. Tonight's excellent movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we start the dance? Hey, Tom gave you his version of this movie, and now I will give you Wikipedia's version. The music of Wild Stallions has created a utopian future society. In 2691, a former gym teacher turned terrorist Chuck Nomalos attacks the Bill and Ted University and steals a time-traveling phone booth, intending to alter the history of what he considers to be a foolish and frivolous society by sending evil robot replicas of Bill and Ted back to the late 20th century to prevent the originals from winning the San Dimas Battle of the Bands. Rufus attempts to stop the Nomalos, but seemingly becomes lost in the circuits of time. In the present, while Stallions are auditioning for an upcoming Battle of the Bands, though Bill and Ted's current girlfriends and former 15th century princesses, Joanna and Elizabeth, have become skilled musicians, the duo themselves are still inept. Despite this, the organizer, Mrs. Wardrow, assures them a slot in the contest as the final act and informs them that victory will result in a record deal and $25,000 prize money. Following a party, the duo proposes to their fiancés right as the evil robots arrive from the future. After luring the real duo away to Vasquez Rocks and killing them by throwing them over the side of a the robots begin working to ruin the duo's eventual fame along with their relationships with their fiancés. In the afterlife, Bill and Ted's souls are met by Death, who says they may challenge him in a game for their souls, but ones that nobody has ever won. Bill and Ted escape after attempts by possessing Ted's father and deputy fail. Their next attempt for help at a seance held by Missy ends with them being sent to hell. Tormented by Satan and forced to face their own fears, the duo realize their only escape is to take Death's offer. He then appears and allows them to choose a game. To Death's dismay, they select modern games like Battleship, Clue, Electric Football, and Twister, beating him every time. Finally, he reluctantly concedes, placing himself at their command. Realizing they need to locate the smartest person in the universe to help build robots to counter the Nomalos evil robots, Death escorts the pair to heaven. God directs the group to an alien duo named Station, who readily agrees to help them. On the eve of the Battle of the Bands, Bill and Ted are brought back to life. They race to the concert as Station constructs benevolent robot versions of themselves from supplies picked up at a hardware store. Elsewhere, the evil robots abduct the girls and tie them high above the stage at the Battle of the Bands, intending to drop them at their deaths at the finale. Bill and Ted arrive just as the evil robots take the stage. The benevolent good robots easily defeat their evil counterparts, and Joanna and Elizabeth are lowered by Station before the ropes break. The Nomalos appears in the time booth, preparing to kill Bill and Ted himself, and overrides broadcasting equipment to send a live feed of their confrontation across the entire planet. Bill and Ted deduce that they can go back in time following the encounter to arrange events for the Nomalos to be captured in the present, though the Nomalos attempts to follow suit. So turn the tables by explaining that after Denon's father, Captain Logan, Miss Wardrow reveals herself to be a disguised Rufus who gives them the stage. Acknowledging their ineptness, the duo decide to use the time booth. They immediately return to the auditorium with their families that now include Little Ted and Little Bill. After 16 months of intense guitar training and a 2-week honeymoon, joined by Death, The stations and the Good Robots on stage, while Stallions perform a stunning rock ballad as Denomalos' broadcast continues, broadcasting their music worldwide and creating harmony. The victorious Ball Stallions encounter many perks of fame that help them to fulfill their destinies and create their utopian society with their music, eventually taking their act to Mars. All right, we're going to do check-ins at this time. So the way this works is we're going to take general check-ins first, and give us your name, your call sign, and whether or not you saw this movie. And then we'll be discussing first the plot, then characterization, and then special effects and whatever else you want to talk about. So, the general check-ins, please come now.
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Dallas, and yes, I saw the movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony. He saw the movie and
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise to Arlington did not see this film. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey, J. November, I did see the film.
Okay, conditions are pretty bad tonight. Just flat missed several of these calls. We're going to have to back up and catch up. I think the first one, Chris, I think it's K05 Foxtrot Echo Romeo. Is that correct?
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Dallas.
Okay, Kilo 0 FER, Chris, and you did see the movie. When I was so statically, I completely missed. If you could repeat it for me, please.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the movie.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot Victor, Virginia. I understand you did see the movie, correct?
Yes, but there's no Victor on the in my call sign.
I'm sorry, N55F. In November Victor 5, Foxtrot. The next one I missed as well. Just didn't hear a thing. Would you please come back with it?
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom. I'm in Louisville.
Okay, we had KG5BZWJ, who did see the movie, and then KE5ICX, Tom, who will not admit to seeing the movie. If I didn't call your name, please come back with it. There are at least 2 more out there, which I just totally missed.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise. Did you see the movie?
Negative, Ned, I missed this one. I saw about 10 minutes of it. I think that was enough, but that's all I saw.
All right. Do we have any Echolink check-ins? Okay, any other check-ins of any type, please come now.
Five Alpha Oscar Kilo KI5 AOK. Robert, KD Texas, and I think I saw the movie at some point in time in my life. I have.
That is AI5 what, please?
Kilo India 5 Alpha Oscar Kilo KI5 AOK.
Sorry for butchering it. KI5AOK, Robert, and you did see the movie. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's get started. Start with Chris, K0 Foxtrot. Plot of this film.
I think if you take this film too seriously, you're going to have a bad time. I think this is the best way to approach any movie about time travel, and the Bill and Ted series approaches it so lightheartedly that, you know, you're in for just a fun time, not a, it's not sci-fi that takes itself too seriously. Just celebrating arena rock, hair metal, and 2 really awesome but stupid dudes. I loved it. K0FPR.
Okay, NT5PM. Tony, what did you think of the plot?
Good evening, Brenda. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Chris. Really, I have 2 sets of comments, one from me and one from Aaron. For me, I think the plot is really a lot of fun, in part because it combines 2 archetypes. We have the classic Hollywood 3-act structure, we have some inciting action, then we have some rising action and character development, and finally we have a ticking clock where the heroes have to, you know, race against time to accomplish something. And it does all of this in a very lighthearted, non-serious manner. But then we also have a very ancient Joseph Campbell-style hero's journey. They are at home, but kind of aimless. They don't know where to go. They have to go off into the wilderness, journey into the underworld, beseech the gods, come back and try. Classic hero's journey, a story thousands of years old. I love this movie because it combines these 2 different, very obvious archetypes that we have all seen a billion times with such a smile. You know, we know they're going to win. We know there's going to be a lot of humor along the way. we're never denied what we expect. There's just such a fun sense of accomplishment as they both complete the Hollywood movie structure and the hero's journey, and we get the big arena rock at the end. Aaron loves this movie for a different reason, which is that it's so tempting when you make a sequel to make the same movie over again. And apparently, in the early stages of writing this movie, they thought about that. Oh, instead of having to go back in time to complete a history report, maybe now they're in college and they have to go back in time to complete a poetry project or something equally similar. Aaron was so happy that the plot of this movie was different and approached with creativity. What can we make that uses time travel but is nothing like the way we used it before? There are some nods to that. We see a school class at the beginning where, yes, they're bringing back famous scholars from the past. In heaven, we see Ben Franklin and Confucius and Einstein and so forth. So there is this nod to the first movie where the famous people of the past and the famous scholars of the past are the most important part. But it's different. So I'm proud that they combined archetypes to make a wonderful movie with a smile, so lighthearted. And Aaron is different, that they did with are completely satisfied with the plot, but in different ways. NT5TM.
All right, November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. What do you think of the plot?
Good evening, Brenda and the net. This is Virginia in Fort Worth. I'm sorry my call sign is such a tongue twister. It really gets people. So you're not the only one. Well, you know, I've seen the first one a couple of times over the years. In fact, I saw it most recently in the spring when a friend of mine was here and we were just looking for something funny to watch, and she picked Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And so, believe it or not, I had never seen it until today. I knew it existed for all these years, and I don't think I had ever seen it. If I did, I don't remember. And now apparently there's a brand new one out that now I can see because I've seen the second one. I really liked it. I'm going to kind of reflect what Tony said about the fact that they do a really good nod to the original movie, kind of like Bill and Ted with their original history report. They set a precedent that in the future that will be how you learn about history as you go back in time and you find all these famous people. And so I liked the class at the beginning where they had all the different, they were focused mostly on music because, you know, apparently Bill and Ted's music had saved the world, and so they brought back people like J.S. Bach, but then they also brought back Thomas Edison, and so it was neat to see some familiar people that are pretty revered by, you know, me and others I know. I like that they are kind of nodding. It's a really good nod, but it's also very satirical. They satirize time travel. They satirize. There's even a moment in there where I think it looked like they were specifically satirizing Back to the Future 2, which had come out 2 years before that, in the end scene where they dropped the sandbag on the guy. I was like, well, that's right out of Back to the Future 2. I just thought that was kind of neat. And then kind of making fun of even having a ticking clock in a time travel movie is pretty funny if you think about it. You know, if you can travel in time, just go back to like well before anything happened and just fix it before it even can go bad. But then theirs is like, well, we'll just, you know, after this is all over, we'll just go back. And so they nodded to the first movie that way, too, because they did a bunch of that in the first movie, and it was really funny. But then they also had kind of some nods to the horror, you know, genre where they were dead and they were, you know, seeing things from that perspective. It almost riffed on Beetlejuice and Poltergeist and that kind of stuff. And I thought that was fun, where they could like go into, he could go into his dad's body and try to use him to communicate, and that didn't really work. And then they tried to communicate through the seance, and they ended up in hell. And it's goofy, but it's not that kind of goofy that's sort of aimless. It seems that way if it's not your cup of tea, but it's actually really clever. And I really liked the nod to Star Trek, where they're sitting in their apartment and they're watching Star Trek, and at the end of the episode, Captain Kirk walks up the famous Star Trek rocket, Vasquez Rocks, and Vasquez Rocks is so famous. It's been in so many movies. It's even in my favorite movie, Short Circuit. It's at the end of that, and it's in an episode of Big Bang Theory where they all are on the way to a convention, and they're in their Star Trek outfits, and they decide to stop at Vasquez Rocks and do a photo shoot. And so it's so funny that their evil robot twins decided to throw them off of Vasquez Rocks. I just thought that's like classic. That's like a brilliant science fiction nod just in itself in many ways, for so many reasons. But yeah, I really liked it because it wasn't about being realistic, it wasn't about being, existential. It was kind of trying to be the opposite of all that, and at the end, of course, I do like at the end, they actually did learn to play the guitar, and they played really well, and somehow their music brought the world together, and it seems very fitting at this time in history that the movie ends with them doing a concert on Mars. So I won't get any more detail than that. I liked the details of it. There's so much more I could talk about. I kind of had it on in the background while I was doing some other stuff, but I could follow it, and it was just a whole lot of fun. And those characters are just a lot of fun, too. They're just general benevolent attitude towards everyone, so unjudgmental that they even, get taken, thrown to their death by their robot counterparts because they're so trusting. So anyway, whole thing with death and them playing games with him, and then him ended up like having a real life at the end. It's just, the whole thing is fantastic. It just cheered me up. So anyway, Brenda, I'll turn it back over to you. This is NB5F.
Oh, thank you. Cruise, KI5KWG. You didn't see the movie, but do you want to make any comments?
KI5KWG. Cruise in Arlington caught me back out on the porch. No, I didn't watch this, but Chris said do not approach this seriously, and I made that mistake. I just wasn't in the mood. And Tony's comments about the hero's journey and the archetypes, those comments right there already had me going, okay, I'm going to watch this movie tonight. So I missed out, so I'm going to sit and listen for the rest of this and enjoy. Back to you, Nat.
All right, well, you can jump in any time later if you decide you have something to say. Next, Jay, KG5BZW. What did you think?
This is KG5BZW. Okay, it was a fun movie, and it was, yes, you have to be in the right mood to watch it. It is a bit silly, but as others have mentioned, it is pretty clever in the way it just pokes at things, and it almost makes fun of itself because, hey, now Bill and Ted have figured out, well, at least in one instance, ways to go back to visit dead people. They visit them back in time, and now they can visit them in heaven or whatever. So I mean, when you're thinking about that, it's like that. Oh wow, how could a story even exist with that kind of power? But you know, they managed to do it. Yeah, it really it doesn't take itself too seriously, and you can't really take it too seriously because it just I don't know. It's yeah, and the nods, yeah, those they're pretty interesting. I'm still trying to figure out station. Because I I know a Japanese anime that has characters that fuse into one, and I'm wondering, okay, did they steal that from this film? I think that manga, the manga for it existed long before this, but although these are I don't know. There's so many little things. I don't know that I can really say anything more than what's already been said, and I think they've said it better than me. So I'm just going to hand it to the next person. KG5 BCW, back to that.
Thank you. And K5 ICX, Tom, give us your wisdom.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. I have no wisdom this evening, but I have to say I did enjoy this movie. This was a lot of fun, and I love Tony's take on it and what he had to say. Of course, you know, and I put this in my own little thing. When they go to hell, it is a kind of a riff on the Seventh Seal with death, and it's just, I mean, that movie is just so serious, and then they take and they really fix up death exactly the way he looked in that movie. So you've got this whole total thing going on. I just find it absolutely hilarious. Well, you know, it challenges them to a game and it's Battleship and Clue and football, the electric football, when he's sitting around and he's going, I can't make this work. And then, of course, Twister, which is the most humiliating game ever made by anybody, and Death's trying to make that happen. I'm sorry, that is just too stupidly funny that I can't, I have a hard time not sitting there and just laughing hysterically. And then the trip to the hardware store, and Death's wandering around. He's got this little cart, he's doing his thing. And the guy's smoking the cigarette, and he's got that leather jacket on, and he says, I'll be seeing you soon. I like that a lot. And then one of my other favorite scenes, again, it's Death. And he's got the Pollyannish sun hat. He's trying to imitate something he cannot be. And it's just absolutely freaking hilarious. I love that stuff. And when they originally go in and they do the Melvin, and you go in and do the underwear trick that we all know from kids. I don't know, it's stupidly fun, but it is a more intelligent stupidity in the sense that, you know, it's very slapstick and all of that, but it's got some meaningful elements to it that make it work really, really well. And I like films like that. I love them dearly when they can do that and take a very somber thing and turn it on its head, almost literally. And then all the things they did after that too were pretty cool. I enjoyed that, where they continue to just amp up the whole script. I mean, they got the two gals and they're hanging from the ceiling. Where do you see that except in you know, Bugs Bunny cartoons or something like that? And the evil doppelgangers and all that. It just kind of threw all this stuff in together, but they managed to make it work in a very fun way. So, and I agree with what everybody else said too. It's not a rehash of the original story at all. I mean, they go to hell. How often does that happen in movies? Not very. Oh, they went to heaven too, but only briefly. So, why not? I mean, Dante's Inferno, a comedy. What else could you want or wish for? Okay, that's it for me. Okay, E5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And KR5AOK, Robert, what did you think of the plot? Well, it looks like Robert may have left us or stepped away for a bit. He can join us back again if he comes back. So, anybody else want to check in now? Okay, it's my turn. I love this movie. I didn't think I would. I don't remember being as delighted with the first one as I was with this one. I saw it once in the theater, first run. Of course, took my kids. I had to see everything that a young boy would want to see because they couldn't go alone. And for some reason, we didn't see this. They would have been the age they would probably watched it. I have no idea why we didn't go. Although maybe they were able to go alone because it wasn't R-rated or scary. Anyway, I just thought this was delightful. It was funny. What I like is the little unexpected funny things, like Des playing Twister and can't get his foot around. And, you know, he's deaf. He's the Grim Reaper, and here he is doing silly things. So it's kind of funny. You know, I have quit trying to analyze time travel movies because you can't. It doesn't work. This was one of those two. Plot-wise, the time travel part didn't make any sense. I don't care. It was fun. That was just a vehicle to make the story work, and it did. So these lovable gloofs, you know, are just, they're good guys, nice guys, trying to do the right thing, but they're dorky and kind of irresponsible and goofy. But that's okay. There's a lot of that in all of us. So, yeah, it works. It definitely works. I'm surprised at how well it worked. So, all right. Let's move on to characterization. Let's start with K0FER. Chris, go ahead.
Well, it's no surprise to anyone that I really enjoyed this movie. Tony, you gave me a lot to think about. I hadn't thought about this as a sort of a recreation of a myth or Dante's Inferno or anything, but you're right. This does have the Orpheus tale in this, going into hell trying to get out of hell to protect the babes kind of stuff. I like the characterization. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I kept thinking when I was watching this that this must have been a ton of fun to act and create for Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. You get to play their idiot heroes tropes that tumble around through the story with almost zero intention. They get to play the evil versions of themselves, which are still idiots, but just with a sinister twist. They get to possess their dad, and then the actors that are playing Ted's dad impersonate his idiot son. And I can just imagine how much fun that must have been on the set. So I love the main characters, but my favorite characters are always Rufus, George Carlin, may he rest in peace, and Death. Death's character as this kind of too serious, really square guy who still makes it into the band and finds his calling not with the scythe but with the bass is, oh man, never saw that coming when I saw this in theaters. Yeah, Death made the film for me. I think that's all I have. K0FER.
Okay, and T5TM, Tony, what did you think of the characters?
Oh, so many happy thoughts. Erin's story here is that this was an important movie in her character development. She was a tween here. She had her first big purse that she brought to a movie, and of course its only purpose was to carry in extra concessions for her friends, just like her mom did in the family tradition. So she has a happy memory of that, that she not only enjoyed seeing at the theater, but that she learned how to smuggle things in. For me, I really like the characters because, amusingly, they feel really realistic to me. Not that I've ever actually met Death, but yeah, Death is great. We can all sympathize with Death. You know, I don't know how I got here, but I just want to fit in. And he can play the bass, which my brother was a big bass, is still a bass player, so that really resonated with me. I've been, and Erin loves a good bass part, so between the two of them, I listen to songs like, oh, the bass here is pretty good. Yet in real life, I don't know quite how to say it. There's this, you know, when you're sincere and you're not lying and you just mean well, sometimes, not always, not even most of the time, but sometimes people pick up on that and it works. And that's why Bill and Ted are so lovable. They are not good at what they do. They're not terribly bright. You know, when people often say this sarcastically, oh, she means well, he meant well. But they do mean well. And their characters project that. And so we all want to give them a hug and we want to join in. And, you know, maybe all I can do is shake a tambourine and I can't even sing as well as Yoko Ono. But we all want them to succeed. And that really helps the movie work. Yeah, Death was a lot of fun, let me tell you. But they really do create these characters who we just want to see them make it. T5TM.
Alrighty. November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. What did you think of the characterization?
Like Bill and Ted, they're just very likable. I think it is that everyman thing where we just, I don't know, for me personally, I see those characters and I think, man, it would be nice to be that laid back about everything, you know, like you take the right thing seriously, like, you know, when they were asking their girlfriends to marry them and you know, deep down they're these really caring people, but then they're just these dudes from California, and I don't know. I think the story basically kind of, to me, it sort of pulls back the curtain on how we probably all sort of deep down think it would be really great if we just knew that we had a future, and we each knew how important we were, and it would be so much easier to relax and not take everything too seriously if you didn't feel like you had to have all this control over getting somewhere in life. And it's just, I think that's one of the things this story is about. So yeah, they're very likable. Their evil counterparts were, not too scary, and were just kind of just as sort of witless as they were. They were just like, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're evil robots, and we're not going to make any bones about it. I thought that was kind of funny. I did like the portrayal of Death. I liked his little character arc, where it's just funny that the Grim Reaper, the guy who's supposed to come after everybody when they die, ends up realizing, he could do something better with his quote-unquote life. And some of the weird, late 80s, early 90s stereotypical things, the weird characters, the weird puppet characters, are a little bit cloying at times, kind of. But I think it's just a nod to just the things that were in movies back then, just the special effects and the cartoon voices and just added to the silliness. And of course, everybody loves Rufus. Who doesn't love Rufus? He's great. And I just, like everybody's saying, it was just fun, and it wasn't too serious, and they kind of made fun of a lot of things without being insulting or condescending. And I liked that the characters, they were finally like, okay, well, if we're gonna really have this future, even though it's been laid out for us, we need to do the work. And so you didn't get to see it, but they went and did all the work before they won. They knew they had to do what they needed to do to win the contest, and they actually went and did the work, and a lot of fun. I liked the characters. I liked them in the first movie, and now I'm looking forward to seeing the third movie. So the bad guys were stereotypical bad. The good guys were lovable, and that's what you have to do with a character. You have to make people care about them, and amazingly enough, there's a lot of silly, stupid movies out there where it's hard to engage with the characters. Some people might just totally thrash me for this, but a while back, a friend of mine told me to watch Buckaroo Banzai, and I watched it, and I had a hard time with it because there's nothing about any of those characters that made me care about them, and it's kind of a silly, crazy movie that people wonder what the plot of it even is. But I like a silly, crazy movie where the people who wrote it took the time to make the characters really people that you care about, that you engage with, and that you want to see win. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Back to net in V5F.
Okay, thank you. KG5BZWJ, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Okay, the characters, yeah, I do think if it wasn't for Death, Death really is a good part of what makes this movie work, the character of Death. The evil Bill and Ted also are pivotal in this. It's great when they're interacting with regular Bill and Ted. I think that's probably the best. That's just best proof that they are actually somewhat competent at being Bill and Ted in some weird sense. just the interaction. That doesn't make me smile, but at the same time, I have a little qualm, I guess. The fact that Bill and Ted are so genuine, and at one point, where the evil Bill and Ted are with the girlfriends. Dad, I don't know. These were women who have only been in the 20th century for a few months, so I don't know. I'm trying to make excuses here, but I just can't believe that they couldn't have seen something was up with them, even as good as they were being Bill and Ted. There's that lack of genuine, or it's. Maybe it's not so much that they're still genuine, but the problem is they're being genuine and being evil, and so it would seem the genuine evil should be more visible because they don't really. Bill and Ted don't really hide their intentions that well, and so evil Bill and Ted just wouldn't. But then this is again a case where I think. You can't take this film too seriously, and this might be just one of the tiny drawbacks. Can reset. The characters in Hell were kind of interesting, in particular because, of course, it's the imagined. Well, I don't know the title of the school, the military school director, what that actually is. So it's kind of interesting when you consider it from that perspective that this is not, real characters. This is just a pure imagination, imaginary hell, imaginary hell. Purely created from their own imagination, and there's something to pull from that. It's just how many times do we really create a imaginary hell that really is the only real problem is that it's our imagination. Now, of course, there are real hells too. I mean, I've experienced some. There are some very sad things you can experience as a human, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. The grandma thing, I was kind of that kind of ticked me off a little bit because I just. I don't know. It made sense, but it also was why? That's just my question when I watched that. And then of course we had the good Bill and Ted robots, which were interesting in their own, but didn't really do much. I wanted to say something about them, but I forgot. I brought up Station earlier, which I can say I feel like to comment on it, I have to comment on other things, so I don't know if it's really that relevant. But I just have to go back to Terminator 2 and the evil. Bill and Ted with the voice changing and all that was a cute nod right there. Yeah, so there are a lot of nods in this film that if you didn't know you missed. Which is not okay. I'm just rambling on now. So I'll hand it to the next person. KG5B today. Back to that.
All right, KI5AOK. Robert, your comments? I guess he's not here, and I skipped KE5ICX. I'll never live this down. Tom, give us your comments, please.
It's okay, Brenda. I'm just sitting here feeling ignored. It's fine. I'll be fine. Everybody got their comments in. All the funniest comments got in before me. That's okay. I'll just sit here. Let's see. What can I think of that hasn't been mentioned already? Oh, I know. Chuck Denomos. I love this guy. First off, his name is Chuck, right? Chuck. How evil and terrible could a guy named Chuck be? Well, unless you're, Chuck Napier, perhaps. But I don't know. It just, he was, he's just the pinnacle of evil, and he turns out he was Rufus's gym instructor. Gym teacher. That kind of makes sense in a weird sort of way, and it reminds me of Darth Vader. I was once the learner, now I am the teacher. And I'm thinking that this is what's happened with Rufus, and he actually pulls through, and Denomos does not. Gym teacher and everything. I could just see a game of dodgeball between the two of them. But at any rate, I thought that was pretty funny. That throwaway line was pretty hilarious. Everything else, fantastic. Everybody loves Death. Well, we don't love Death, but we love Death because Death is fun. He's a lot of fun. And from what I understand, I was reading some of the notes here, and it says that they added all that stuff in. And he wanted to play this role. William Sadler wanted to play a comedic role, and he's always played these serious, terrible people in movies. So getting to do that and be serious and then turn it into a comedy was something he really enjoyed. It really showed in the performance, I thought. It's really great. Other things about, I thought that the actual cast gelled really well. And this is something we mentioned last week, I think, but I think it applies here as well. I think you can tell that acting is always better if you have an ensemble cast and people like working with each other. I have a sense that that's what happened here. It looked like maybe it was a happy set. I don't know that for a fact, but I think sometimes the way people act and react are genuine on screen, and I think that's what we were seeing is genuine reactions. And it was wonderfully done. It was a lot of fun. Characters were great. All over the top. I love the possession thing. Was a lot of fun. Somebody else mentioned that, or was it Hal Landon, and it goes in and tries to speak to the other cops, Hill Street Blues style, and it just wasn't working at all. And he kept trying to improve, and it just got sillier and sillier before it was all over. So I like that a lot. And the other fellow, I can't think of his name, but he was in an episode of Star Trek playing kind of the same character. He did the whole Bill thing down pretty well. What else? I'm kind of looking through the cast here to see if I missed anything. As far as the actors are concerned, all very good. I'm surprised that I like Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter in these two roles. For some reason, I'm pre-programmed to believe I'm going to hate these guys because of who they are, and in fact, Denomos hates them. They're evil robot twins. They just can't stand them. But in reality, they're really rather fun. I think it's the honesty. They're not. I think Victoria mentioned there's no reason to hate them. They're not hateful at all. They have nothing hateful about them. They're just trying to get along, and they're kind of awkward in an awkward world. And they're just simply just trying to be them. And they want to be anything. How many people do that? Actually act like themselves. We always are acting some other persona, and they don't do that. This is them. and they feed off of each other. So that was enjoyable, and that makes all the jokes all that much better, and all the other characters that much more absurd, because they're all over the top. They're all crazy. They're all playing roles, but they aren't. Not Ted and Bill. They're not. They're just being them. And it's a nice contrast the way they work it out. And the greatest maniacal thing in the world, I'm going to beat death in a match. And I mentioned this earlier, but it's true. They pick stupid games that they're really good at because they're stupid, but they're good at these things. Ooh, stalk my battleship with the Czechoslovakian language. Oh, jeez, that's so funny. So I liked it. I think in some ways I like this one better than the first one as well. That was mentioned by someone else, and I do. I wish they'd gotten to death a little sooner because that was the best part. Okay, that's it from me. KE5ICX.
Thank you. Anybody else want to check in? Okay, this is Harry B5OZL. I really agree with a lot of these comments. Bill and Ted are just genuine. They might be goofy guys, but they are what they are. There's no pretense. They are nice people. They're kind people. And they like to have fun. They just, trying to get by. And there isn't any bitterness or anger or nothing nefarious. They're just good guys. They just want to be happy and play their music. Death was my favorite character, though. He was so funny. And, you could tell that all these people were having a really good time in this movie. And you can always tell in a movie if the characters are enjoying it. It just brings an element to the whole thing. I love that this is such an homage to rock and roll music. If you watch the credits, there was a song where they said, God gave us rock and roll. This is almost like a religion, and they kind of felt that way, that rock and roll was the meaning of life, and I feel that way some days. Music's really, really important. Speaks to us. Let's see, characters. I think they could have done more with the girls, the babes. They were just sort of window dressing, and I was kind of disappointed that they didn't develop their characters a little bit more. Let's see. Well, I don't want to oversay things. Tom's whining about being last. Well, how about me? It's all been said, and all I can do is say, yeah, me too. I think that too. And it's hard to be original when you're at the last. So I think I'll quit there. Okay. You should do special effects on the third round, but it could be special effects or anything else that you want. And for some reason, my voice is going, so I may not be talking a whole lot more. K0FVR Chris, what did you think about special effects or anything? Go ahead.
Special effects were very early 90s, pre-Jurassic Park. Wasn't a thing. But man, they were adequate. Seeing the robots made up of dustbusters and Station merging himself with himself in order to become a bigger version of himself, like Ultron, was a very 80s kind of thing. But like you, I think many times with most were the homages to music. Kisses got her start costuming for Prince. Her first feature film was Prince's Purple Rain. She was a costume designer for that. So, you kind of see a trend there. Anyway, I like this one, but I'd like to hear what everybody else has to think about the cameos. Be right back in that.
Hey, Tony, NT5TM. Talk about anything you want.
First, Chris, I'll be happy to stay up and help you troubleshoot this after the net. You had a horrible audio problem. There was a sort of a rhythmic bass note pulsating from your station the entire time you were transmitting, and so I don't think we got very much of that. If you want to take a listen to that after the net or tomorrow afternoon, I'll be really happy to help you work that out. Okay, regarding the movie, I'm going to say something really off the wall and surprising. This movie makes me think of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and especially the artificial language called Freddish. Freddish is a language that you can find out about online. You know, if you want to say to a child, don't play on the railroad tracks, Mr. Rogers would have told you, because Fred Rogers was just like his character in real life, oh, you can't say that. Don't shut a child down. You have to tell them, play only where it is safe. Well, how does the child know that? Well, ask your parents. Well, that old child has two parents. And there was this 26-step process, well, you can't say parent or guardian, that would turn the sentence, don't play on the railroad tracks, into a positive universal statement like, listen, a grown-up you love may tell you where it is safe to play. So when I'm getting ready for bed here and I'm thinking about this movie and how much Aaron and I like it, and this almost feels like a science fiction movie translated into Freddish. This is the science fiction movie Mr. Rogers would have made for us. You know, not saying imperative commands like, trust your friends, have confidence in art, believe that the people you make a difference with will make a difference with and make a difference with others, and so on for hundreds of years. You can never know where it will reach. Those are all very positive statements that would be very hard for a small child to get. And so I can imagine Mr. Rogers making this story about how kids love music and the people they love other people, and it reaches into the future, and the future even further past that. So I kind of, I don't know, it's part of the warm, fuzzy feeling of this movie is I imagine, well, we were all talking, that this is the science fiction movie that Mr. Rogers would have made. I don't know. It's strange, but I'm sleepy, and that's what popped into my head. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you. Virginia, November 5 Foxtrot.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot of detail to give. I'll touch on special effects just a little. The special effects were great. It was a big budget movie. It was a sequel to a movie that had been really big, and but I did like the fact that they used a lot of practical effects. There wasn't a whole lot of of course, this was before they did so much of the computer stuff, so it was kind of fun to see the kind of campy 80s, some of the practical special effects and puppets and the silly voices and all that. I enjoyed that, and the music was good. They always, they come up with a good song at the end to tie it all together, and I liked the ending with all the little newspaper articles and ending with them doing a concert on Mars, and I liked the overall feel of it, and I thought it was well done. And as I said at the beginning of my talk a couple rounds ago. I did like their nod to Star Trek and the Vasquez rocks. I just really thought that was, it makes you realize the people who made this movie definitely have a nerdy side to put all that in there, and they definitely did touch on some, like Tony said, some basic, deep, literary and cultural tropes of the hero and mythology and Dante's Inferno, and one of the only other movies that I could think of where they go to hell and then go to heaven also is a movie that we probably should watch on here. It's a movie from 1978. I think would be a fantastic, and it's getting late, and I want everybody else to have a chance before this net turns into a pumpkin. Back to net in V5F.
And you know what? I love pumpkins, and I love pumpkin spice. And for a long time, I thought pumpkin spice flavored things had to have pumpkin flavor in it. I was really disillusioned when it didn't. Okay, Jay, KT5BZW, please go ahead with whatever you want to say.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, there was a lot of practical effects, but I will say the computer effects that I think were, I don't really see how they would have done it outside of a computer. The certain effects, like when the girls walk through the ghostly Bill and Ted, and of course well, now I'm having a brain fart. Not the seance, but before then, when they what's the verb? When they went to the police officers' bodies, I thought that those effects, which I'm pretty sure had to have been done with computer, were actually pretty, good and not, it is still kind of obvious that something was probably done in a certain way or form, but still, it doesn't look too bad. Or maybe you could say it looks exactly what you expect a special effect to look in that age. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Oh, let's see. We had, of course, the good Bill and Ted robots, which were pretty silly. We had the ripping of the chest, which I'm pretty sure were special. I don't know if there was any digital melding on that, but it is probably. 99% of that was practical. No, not really much I can say. Honestly, for or against, I don't dislike any of the special effects. The scenes down in hell were actually pretty cool in terms of just visuals and whatnot. Heaven was actually kind of boring, but oh well. Maybe that I think that was there might be something to that. I don't know. I don't want to read too much into that. At least architecture-wise. I didn't. I don't have anything else. KG5BW, back to net.
Alrighty, KE5ICX, it's your turn.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for remembering me. Not much more to say. I guess special effects were kind of interesting. I like the crazy practical sets. I think Virginia mentioned that too. Especially the ones involving hell and the force perspective and the crazy, oversized, undersized things. The private little hell that they dropped into. Oh, that was the funny part too. I love that as they head down deep into hell, and they just keep yelling, and there's different angles and more different angles, and we all know the camera's just kind of being, you know, cammed up or down in order to make that effect work. But they stop. They just stop, and they continue to fall, and eventually they land softly, actually, at the bottom of hell. Anyway, all of that I thought was pretty fun, and you could have a lot of fun with that when you're doing any sort of fantasy film too. And usually it's expensive. Obviously they didn't have, well, they had money, I guess, but even still, having the opportunity to do that sort of thing and create the colors and the palettes that all work together is always fun. And doing it in a comedy in this way is very unusual. So you've got some of the pinnacle, most interesting things you can do in a serious film, and you know, with fantasy sequences and that, but you put it into a funny film, into a comedy, and you can do practically anything you want. That's all I'm going to say. I enjoyed the movie and had a lot of fun with it. KE5ICX.
Thank you. KI5AOK. Robert, have you ever come back to us? Okay, it's my turn. Talk about anything and everything. This music was done by David Newman, and if you look him up, I'm not going to read it all to you because he's done a million movies, but he did the music for one of my favorite movies, Galaxy Quest, and I know it's your favorite movie too. Everybody says that. He's part of that Newman family that is like one of the most awards of any family in the world in terms of Academy Awards and Oscars and Emmys and things like that. So he did the music for the first Bill and Ted movie too. I'd be interested to know if he's done it for the third one. We'll have to wait and see. I once made a pilgrimage to Vasquez Rocks. We had went with my family to a sci-fi convention in the LA area. I don't even remember now which one it was. We went to several. And so we decided to make a little side trip. It's part north of LA. And we figured we'd go look for some Gorn. We didn't find any Gorn. We didn't even find any Gorn droppings. No sign of any aliens or starships or anything. It was just a bunch of rocks. But still, it was kind of fun. We had our pictures made. And so we could say, yeah, we've been there. So, let's see. Yeah, this is just a thoroughly enjoyable movie. It's not too serious. It's a popcorn movie. You can just sit back and laugh and enjoy it, and not worry too much about analyzing it or trying to make it make sense. It's fun. It's just a good romp. All right. Anybody else want to check in? All right, we're almost at the end, but not quite. We need to learn about next week's movie, KE5ICX. Tell us, please.
Oh, Brenda, I'd be most happy to do so. Yes, next week's movie, September 17th, will be The Lost World. Irwin Allen, the master of disaster, brings us a film of the lost world with prehistoric creatures and David Hedison in that weird outfit he wore in that thing. which also showed up in twice to the bottom of the sea. It's in color. It's in color. If you want to find out more information, go to the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie. Then look under Guides. You'll find the information there for future movies. Or just look for what's pinned at the top. In this case, it will be The Lost World sometime tomorrow morning. Also, if you're not interested in doing Facebook, you can always sign up for my list. Just send an email to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX@yahoo.com. I'll put you on the list, and I will send out the movie information, usually Sunday sometime in the morning. But nearly all of them are, well, in fact, all of them are free. This one is no exception. This is from archive.org, which is online. So, and it possesses a lot of material, including a lot of stuff from the DARC is there as well. See you all next week. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody that participated. This was a fun net. This is WB5OZL Clear.